Thanks very much for joining us. WBZ is the station to turn to for coverage of the 2026 election. And here in Massachusetts, things are starting to heat up. The Democratic convention coming up in a couple of weeks, and the just concluded Republican state convention raising some interesting questions about the state of the party. Let's get some insight into that from our guest, the chair of the Massachusetts GOP, Amy Carnevale. Amy?
Great to be with you, John.
Good to see you. Always good to have you here. So what did the convention in Worcester a couple of weeks ago tell us about divisions within the party and the challenges you face trying to knock off Democratic incumbents this fall?
First of all, the convention told us there's a lot of enthusiasm for a Republican ticket and for providing two-party balance back in Massachusetts. We do have all Democratic control, supermajorities in the State House, State Senate, and all federal delegation. And we had a lot of new delegates turn out to the convention, a lot of younger delegates. So I'm really encouraged about the enthusiasm that we saw from delegates wanting to be part of the process, wanting to bring back two-party government to Massachusetts. And at the end of the day, we did come out with an endorsement on the gubernatorial and lieutenant governor side. We had competitive elections in both, so we had endorsements. And now the party will move forward and try to support our candidates up and down the ballot.
Well, the endorsed candidate for governor was Mike Minogue, a healthcare, a medical device executive who's running for office for the first time. Brian Shortsleeve, a former Baker-era MBTA Fiscal and Management Board member, also qualified for the ballot. Right now, there's a big push by Minogue and his supporters to get Shortsleeve to drop out on the premise that a contested primary would damage the party's chances against Maura Healey. Do you agree with that?
So as party chair, I have to remain neutral in any primaries, and so we do have a primary at this point. Sometimes competition is good and support healthy for our party. But again, I'll just kind of point out the example. When our U.S. Senate race, we did have our Republican State Committee early on endorse John Deaton as our preferred candidate, and that freed up resources and party coordination, cooperation in order to defeat sitting Democrat Senator Markey, where we think we have an excellent opportunity.
Just clarify for me, would you, how is that not a conflict with this notion of staying neutral, that you cleared the field for Deaton?
So our party rules say that if we have our 80-member Republican State Committee at two-thirds vote to endorse a candidate, then the party can formally get behind a candidate. And so we actually did that with John Deaton, really kind of breaking with history, knowing that we needed a clear field on the Republican side where the Democrats have a primary in that race.
Well, so far, I'm sure saner heads will prevail eventually. But for now, Minogue and his campaign are refusing to debate Shortsleeve. Shortsleeve says a candidate who will not debate is, quote, disrespecting voters. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think public forums are important, and I know both Brian Shortsleeve and Mike Minogue have been out on the stump for months, talking to voters, talking to potential delegates leading up to the convention. And Mike Minogue is a different kind of candidate. He's running a different type of race, and he's really focused on November and Maura Healey and defeating Governor Healey, and that's been his message, and I think it'll continue to be his message.
Well, would you urge him to rethink this no-debate posture?
I think that's a decision that he has to make. I know he's talked about wanting to debate Maura Healey, so I think he'd be open to debating her.
That ain't happening until he wins the primary. I think we all understand that. One other quick thing before we take our break here. Shortsleeve and his supporters argue a staunchly pro-life candidate like Minogue, who I should point out says he wouldn't seek to change any existing state laws about abortion rights. They argue a candidate like this is unelectable in a matchup with Maura Healey. Is he wrong?
So, Mike Minogue has made no secret that he is a practicing Catholic. He is pro-life. In the same time, he has said that he's not seeking to change Massachusetts law. It's in statute here in Massachusetts, and that is not something that he would seek to change. I think,
is it a political problem, though?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I think as long in Massachusetts, it's a majority of the voters have made clear that they do support women's reproductive rights, and Mike Minogue is running as a candidate who has said he will respect that.
All right, on that note, let's take our break, and when we return, we'll continue our discussion of Campaign 2026 with the chair of the Mass GOP, Amy Carnevale, so stay with us. Welcome back to our conversation with the chair of the Massachusetts Republican Party, Amy Carnevale. And Amy, in a recent poll, 50% of voters said they would support a question that may be on the November ballot that would switch us from a party primary system to an all-party system where all the candidates would be on the same ballot, doesn't matter what party they're from. Another term for this is a jungle primary, where the top two finishers advance to the final election, so you could have two Democrats, two Republicans. Do you support that idea?
No, the Republican Party has taken a firm position against that question, and we will actively campaign against it. Because we believe that voters should have an ideological choice at the ballot box, and having a jungle primary where you may have two candidates who are kind of similarly aligned in ideology does not present a real choice to voters. And so we feel strongly that they should continue to have that choice. In the party politics and the process of kind of earning that nomination in the qualification of a party is an important guide for many voters who, for better or worse, may not take the time to get to know the candidates as well as they should. So it's an important guideline for voters, and we support the current system.
Well, in all candor, if something like that were to go through, wouldn't it render both parties kind of irrelevant?
Not necessarily irrelevant, but less relevant. We'd have to reconsider conventions. There's a whole host of things that we'd have to reconsider. And again, we do think it's important, especially in a state like Massachusetts, that voters have that choice between two parties.
Well, it's certainly no secret, we don't have to wait till the fall to start hearing this, that Maura Healey and the Democratic Party in general argue that Trump administration actions, the immigration crackdown, cuts to medical and scientific research, the tariffs have inflicted real damage on the Massachusetts economy, not to mention the gas prices we're experiencing during the Iran war. Do you dispute that?
Absolutely. I think this is another way for Governor Maura Healey to try to dodge accountability for her actions here in Massachusetts that have made energy cost less affordable, that have added to the cost of really everything here in Massachusetts, the cost of goods. So you'll hear her time and time again kind of try to dodge responsibility. Over $1 billion we know was spent on the migrants coming into the state. Now it's a little harder to track exactly how much is being spent, but that's a lot of money that's coming from Massachusetts taxpayers that has led to making Massachusetts less and less affordable. And by blaming President Trump, it's kind of a playbook out of many Democrats nationwide as they're trying to blame their troubles on the president.
Well,
rather than
the polling suggests that the public agrees with that. Large majorities.
So clearly, President Trump's ratings here in Massachusetts are not as high as they are throughout the rest of the nation. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that he is responsible for the increased cost of being able to live and work and succeed here in Massachusetts. We're seeing, again, businesses leave the state at record levels. We're seeing commercial construction is almost non-existent here in Massachusetts. So there's a lot of indicators that show that Massachusetts is becoming less competitive, less affordable, and she's turning to the federal level to try to place blame.
We're almost out of time, but would you encourage President Trump to come to Massachusetts to campaign in support of the GOP ticket this fall?
I think President Trump should. We have a lot of issues in Washington, D.C., and President Trump should focus on those federal issues.
Yeah. Amy, thank you for coming. You're always welcome here.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate it. And thank you very much for joining us. Right now, back over to my colleagues for much more WBZ News.